All right, welcome to our training video where we are going to demystify and talk all about the Akashic Records and how we can access those so that as I leave you today, you can get in the Akashic Records on your own and be your own mystic, answer your own questions, and of course, answer those questions for your clients as well if it calls to you to do that. So let's just jump right in. So what the Akashic Records is often conceptualized as like a library or a set of books or a single book. And this is actually way more of a metaphor than something literal. So we're actually entering the ethers or this etheric realm, which is that thought process realm. So that's why it's associated so much with books and knowledge and records, is because this is our thought processes and going through layers of consciousness as we demystify and go deeper into more of a subconscious through hypnosis and different relaxation techniques like that. So it's more of just a meditation practice that's a specifically for answering questions and meeting spirit guides and things like that. So when we're talking about a library, it's just to associate that thought form and that imagery so that you're associating it with thought process, okay? So it's a place for us to be able to grasp that information and bring that information back to our physical from that metaphysical realm. So when we're talking about records keepers, we're talking about spirit guides, they're one and the same. When we talk about the librarian, same thing, it's just that records keeper or that other person, that other spirit guide who can change, but our goal would be to find one guide that would stay with us for the whole time that we are transferring information to and from that spirit realm. So we're going to get into that, and that's like the fourth step. So that's a lot of the time where people are concentrating on, I want to meet my guide, get my answers, bring it back here, which is totally understandable. There's just a couple things that we want to do first, because everybody's question is usually, what if I don't see anything? Or what if I get there and my third eye is closed and it's not open and I don't feel that expansive space? So again, it's really important for us to decide what the records are, which I'll go into even deeper, which I like to associate with like Taoism or the Tao, which is actually what I have tattooed on me right here. And it's the teachings of Lao Tzu, which is the kind of the Bible of what Buddhism and Hinduism kind of branch off of. So I like to associate with this because it's very ancient and it's all about non-doing, unlearning, undoing things. So it's really going backwards in the subconscious and unlayering, uncovering layers of that subconscious mind of things that we have learned of what is correct and just and what is expected of us in our body, in our metaphysical, and in our thought process as well. So we're taking those layers away and we're kind of coming back to this center space that is consciousness, that is this oneness, that is when everything else is lacking, what is left, and it's essentially everything. So it's a really difficult thing to kind of explain. And I think that's why the Akashic Records and Taoism too get so much attention, if you will, because it's a really difficult thing to grasp because it is nothing, so you can't necessarily grasp it. So in Sanskrit, Akashic just means boundless space. It can be translated in all sorts of different languages, but essentially it's boundless, unlimited, completely associated with nothing, star stuff, what have you. So I like to just consider it as the spiritual realm, one consciousness, the Tao, great mystery, the other realms, whatever you like to call it. And that's why I like to associate it too. Instead of Akashic Records, I think of it as the Akashic realm, because it's a place that I'm traveling to with my subconscious in like a hypnosis type of way, if that makes sense. So when we're talking about it being records, we're talking about an archive of unlimited amounts of information. So it's, again, very vast and very humongous. So we have to be in a certain mind space to be able to accept that kind of boundless, unlimited, vast amounts of information. And that's why it becomes so important to have a guide and also to set our intentions and ask the proper questions, which will go over all of that. So again, archives, when we think of it like that, would be like the records, and that would be this ancient information. So asking about past lives, asking about our soul purpose, our soul contracts, where we came from, where we're going, something more broad than just what we're living in our lifetime right now in the 3D and in the physical. So we're traveling through to that tunnel, if you will, when we're doing meditation in that. This is just what's on the other side of the door. So it's an access that's happening, and it's a transformation that's kind of happening, and we're traveling through dimensions in a way too. So again, this is something that can be translated in hundreds of thousands of different ways as well, because it's so vast that what happens is, if you're accustomed to being on some sort of religious journey, for example, and you're associating with Christ consciousness, and you've been associating yourself with biblical text and things like that, when you study the Akashic realm, you will see Jesus of Nazareth or Angel Gabriel or different people that associate with that which you're studying. So it's for that purpose, and with those guides, that you are given the things that will make the most sense to you. And that's why we have so much language around my highest good, or what will be the path to take for my highest good, or which of these options is for my highest good. And it's because this space on the other side of the door is a very supportive, very full of love space. It's not somewhere where you're going to feel overwhelmed. It's not somewhere where you're going to see something you're not ready for and come out of this feeling like you've just been sideswiped by a truck. It's not going to do that to you, because your angels and your higher self and everything that's on that other side understands and is in direct communication with you in the physical, and they know where you're at. So I don't want you to feel like going into this space is something you're going to get overwhelmed, because it purposely is not designed for that. So it's designed to be a translation of what you need to access in terms that are going to make the most sense to you, and as well for your clients. If you're using this for your clients, you will see things that make the most sense to them, and you are that translator that says, okay, my guides are showing me this, your guides are showing me that, I'm here to bring those things together and translate that to you. And again, we kind of have this book type of translation, words, putting things into words, and that's kind of where the records are associated with the book of life, the great library, different things like that. So when I took my certification course, we absolutely did have like a pedestal, and we had a librarian or a records keeper, and then the library was behind them, and the library would move, and you'd go to the correct book, and then you would translate that book. And so when I teach it, which is coming soon, by the way, we'll go over that certification course that's coming, we will teach it both ways, because I do want you to associate those books, because it is for a purpose. But like I said, it is just a metaphor for translating those thought processes from the ethers to 3D realm and translating it in that certain way. So let's see. Hi, someone popped on. I'm hearing a little bit of noise. Hi. So if you don't mind, go ahead and just at the bottom left, mute the... I'm hearing, oh, hi, it's Carissa. Oh, yay, hi. So just utilize that chat box as you're here. I am going to record this, so I'm going to go ahead and mute you, but use that chat box as you need to, okay? Okay, I think we're good.
I got you.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so there it goes. I was clicking it and it didn't do anything. All right, so we're associating it with the books, but only for that translation of taking things from that realm and taking it back with us in a way that's going to make the most sense to our conscious mind. So it's very important too to trust yourself in that process of grabbing and pulling that information to understand what images are coming through. And we're going to go over that too, of how to analyze or not analyze the things that are coming through for you to answer those questions that you're asking at the intention of coming into the records. So that's where we are able to also ask permission. It's very important too to have that little piece of a block between you and the library, being that records keeper or the librarian, if you will, because we're then asking permission to read for clients or to read for ourselves if we're going into past lives and other people are involved. If there's more than one energy there, we need to ask permission to just make sure that our guide is there with us to just kind of be part of that translation, if that makes sense. So there's different versions of every context. There's two sides to every story, and we want to have that guide there with us to push us in the right directions and be that nudge and that guidepost. So it is important to have the guide, but whether or not you want to associate it with a records keeper or a librarian, angel, archangel, what have you, you get to be the decider of that, and you get to be in control of who's there with you in that experience. So again, it's just totally up to you. And so I'll teach it many ways, and then you get to kind of decide which one's going to work for you long term, to where it's easiest for you to access the records in an everyday type of way. So you don't have to feel like you have to go through all of these hoops to get to that access point. So as we're talking about that, that leads me right into like the sacred space, right? So we talk about this when we're in meditation and things like that. So having something like Palo Santo, which I have here, or a sage bundle, or a stone that just happens to call to you more than others is a good idea, or a spritzer even. I've got my oils here too, just some essential oils that bring you a scent that will help you to translate into that other realm. So whether it be a relaxation piece or an empowering piece, it depends on your intention, and you get to utilize that personal power that you already understand in different realms of your meditation practice to bring all of that with you as you go, and it will help with that access. So bringing something like that, and then also clearing your space in some way, either with the smudges or just sweeping the floor that you're about to sit on, having a blanket between you and the floor. You get to decide, but I don't want you to overthink the space. And we'll go over to what to do when your mind starts to wander about the dishes or the clients that you need to catch up with, or these different things that you need to do. Those are just keeping you in the physical. They're not actually serving a purpose. They are just mind clutter. And a couple different things to do with this is, and I've taught it different ways, and we'll go over several because I'm sure that it will evolve with you. But like I said, if all you can think about is the dishes and the kitchen and everything being messy, just think of it as almost like this mind clatter that then turns into static, which then turns into mist, and then you're on the beach and the mist is kind of overflowing you. Then you can transform that mind clatter into something peaceful, okay? Or if something is coming up and it's multiple different things that are overwhelming you with thoughts, then you can imagine you're going on a river and you're on a raft, and all of those are white rapids, right? And so you're going up and down really quickly, you're getting tossed from side to side, and then consciously you're taking control of the river, making it more steady pace. And by the end of this process that you get to control the time frames in that, it becomes a smoother process, and then you're floating on your back and you're extremely tranquil, and you're in this serene ocean that the river led you to, things like that. So there's a way to transform the thoughts into something helpful that can help you then transform what you're seeing in your mind, which was the dishes, to then seeing mist, if that makes sense. So it's a way of enchanting your energy a little bit and getting that physical realm into more of a subconscious realm, so it's all in the brain. So a way to be able to tell if your mind is wandering is if you have closed your eyes and then your eyeballs are kind of doing this. Just think of that as, what's coming up for me right now? What do I want to be concentrating on? And is it just my day-to-day mundane to-do list? Okay, then I'm just going to transform this into something manageable so that I can have this experience. Okay, so Then, of course, making sure there's alignment going on with your body, right? So putting your chakras in a straight line, whether that be lying flat on your back with your feet up. I suggest the feet up because you're less likely to fall asleep, but all of your chakras are in your middle body. So you can then make a right angle. Then you have this feeling of almost falling, and no pillow behind your head will do the same thing. So we always are accustomed to having pillows. So once you take that away, you almost feel like you're doing this, and that helps with that access or that falling through. And that is where fear can come in, because we're feeling like we're falling. We're feeling like we're getting sucked. And when that happens, we can easily just be like, dishes, this, that, homework, whatever. And that is fear creeping in and keeping you in your body. And back pain as well will do the same thing. So there's different ways that we can concentrate on what's coming in, but feel definitely good about which how we transform it. So it's a conscious transformation. And that brings me to as well the breath, or why people always say concentrate on the breath. And this is because this is totally a subconscious action that we don't have to actually think to ourselves, I want to breathe right now. So when we do that and we think to ourselves, all I'm going to do is breathe, the only thing I need to concentrate on is breathing, then the other mind stuff doesn't have space. We fill that space up with the breath, and we're cleansing as well as we go. We're inhaling and outhailing, exhaling. So there's this expansion that's kind of going on, and it cleanses the energy as we go. So that's why that is such an important piece. And as well, things like swimming or walking or running can become meditative practices, because again, our mind is not telling us, hey, put one foot in front of the other. It just happens. So if you have a hard time with that piece of transforming into a tranquil state, doing meditation headphones, guided meditation on YouTube or something like this while you're walking can really help you to practice getting into just concentrating on those steps, concentrating on nothing but breathing, let everything else fall away. If something is coming in and tapping at you almost, then you can create the mist or create that river. And there are others as well. But then as we've kind of done that, as we've calmed down, I personally tend to get bored in meditation videos when they have so much concentration on come back to the breath, and then a half an hour has gone by and we haven't yet seen the door. So this is what I want to leave you with at the end of the video. Obviously, we're not close to that, but is having this access method that you don't actually have to have someone tell you this is what you want to see. You have something to come back to that works for you, that you can sit down and access the door with only a few moments. So what we want to do there is find an access method that works for you. So this is where we have the pathway through the garden, the doorway that opens, the tunnel that we walk into. There's caves, beaches, going down the river, like I said. So the river, for example, we want to start at one place with the mind clatter and things like this. We come down, we go to an ocean. It opens up to a vast space where we're able to have a tranquil experience, and we're in a state of serenity. That's what we want to accomplish. From there, then I would suggest, if this is the way we're going, to then imagine yourself laying flat, opening your eyes, and then you see this channel going up into the ethers or into the other realms or space, and we get to follow by either just being lifted up or by consciously flying up and then taking control of the time that it takes or the speed that we're going. So then you're consciously telling yourself, okay, I'm traveling and this is okay because I can come back at any moment. And this is the magic piece of feeling like we're kind of falling, and it feels really great. We don't have to concentrate on the breath because it's happening without us consciously doing it. Then we can come up to a space where there's a door, there's a pedestal, there's a step, what have you. Then we can open that door, and on the other side is waiting for your spirit team or the conscious library or the book sitting on a pedestal, something like this. And this is something we'll practice in the actual certification course and do it several times, guided meditations, all of that, which give you several different options so that when it comes down to it, you have several to try, and then accessing it will be an easy thing that you can come back to, and it's just something you can record yourself talking if you want to, but you can just be doing it consciously because you've done it so many times, if that makes sense. So, so we went over your guide and how that can look like many different things. Like I said, if you are into biblical text, you'll see that. Archangels, you'll see that. Shamans and Native American things, you'll see that. It totally depends on what you are accustomed to and what you are relating with. However, you cannot choose your guide. So I've had a couple experiences with this where I decided I wanted to meet my spirit guide, but I wanted it to be a certain way. Obviously, that doesn't necessarily work. And again, if we're setting intentions for example, abundance and money, and we're saying, okay, my question is, what's my next step for money abundance that will lead to my highest good? And we go into the records to ask that question to our guides. What can happen is we start getting images of childhood. We start getting images of a father figure. We start getting images of grandparents or traveling, something totally off topic. And then we start thinking, well, this must be my brain taking me different places. I'm going to clear cut delete that. And then we start fragmenting the channel because we're saying to ourselves, nope, that's not what I want money, right? So the issue here is it could be teaching you that in your childhood or from your father figure, you have learned specific subconscious beliefs about money that are keeping you stuck. And what we want to do is focus on that so that you're understanding where your subconscious lies. So there's a fine line between the dishes and the homework and things that are pulling us, and then seeing what we need to see. So you get to be consciously involved in which and what these things are, and whether or not they're pivot points to be guiding you to concentrate on a different direction, or if it's something that's a hurdle that you need to just jump over and get over. So it depends on what state of mind you're at. Again, if your eyes are doing this behind your eyelids, that's an indication that you're not there. You're not in the Akashic realm. You have not crossed the threshold. Once you have crossed the threshold, which of course we'll go over again and give you several methods on how to do that. Once you've opened the door, for example, and you're on that other side and your guide is there, you get to see them and have an altercation, that's not right, an experience of talking and translating with them, and you've gotten to know them a little bit, then at that point they can take you and help you to decipher what things that you're seeing. But the biggest thing here is a lot of people's questions were, what if I am blocked? My third eye is blocked. And what that means is you're second guessing yourself. And once you're in this space, you can continue to second guess yourself even on the subconscious level. So that's many layers that we're digging through. And we'll have to work together on something like that if you legitimately feel like that you are going to see something that's not going to make sense. First and foremost, you have a guide there that you can trust. And I've had several different guides, some of them looking like angels, some of them animals, some of them mystic creatures. Some of them were on purpose. I wanted to do an animal guided meditation. One of them was I want to meet an angel, but I didn't want it to be Gabriel, Michael, Raphael, what have you. It ended up being Gabriel, but that's a story for another day. But I wanted it to be my angel, if that makes sense, or my collective, right? And it just so happened that Gabriel showed up and there was healing to be done and things like that. So it worked out. But again, you can't be so in control. Once you cross that threshold, you're there to be an observer. And that's an important part too, is once you're there, you're just there to be eyes open. And that's once you feel like your eyes are open behind your eyelids and you're seeing things as if you're in a dream, your third eye's open, you're there, you're done. That's all you need to do consciously. Then you just say, okay, this is where I want to ask my questions. Okay, this is where I want to explore my past life. And of course, these are your intentions that you set before you sit down to do the meditation or to access the realm. So at that point, then you're able to get different images, like I said, about like a father figure or a past life or something that's coming up that might not have 110% to do with money that you first and foremost put into your intention. So again, trust the images that come up once your eyelids stop doing this. So this meeting now has unlimited minutes. Okay, well, that's good news. I just got a notification saying congratulations on something. I was like, what? Okay, so anyhow, so you've reached the place where your eyelids are closed, but your eyes feel open. you feel in a tranquil state, you're here seeing things in a dream time type of situation. Now it's time to trust everything that comes through. So again, if you're seeing nothing but a book, but the pages are blank, that's okay. What we want to do is just say book, book, book. We want to acknowledge and give our attention and our awareness to the fact that the book is there. Then as we are focusing on it, and we're kind of doing this where we're summoning the things to come through, that concentration can then have somewhere to go, and then it'll evolve. Either you'll see pages start to turn, you'll see images start to appear, or you might get your attention called to look upwards and just take the book with you and look at the binding. Maybe there's a key on the binding. Maybe there's a key farther away that you have to bring to the book. There's a little journey that happens, and it gets to be fun. This is another piece of the puzzle. Doing this as homework, or doing it because you feel like you need to, or having like an expectation as you come into this, is going to hinder you. So when we're here, again, we're an observer, and we're here to be in the tranquil state for as long as possible. That's really our goal, is just to enjoy this tranquil state of not having to be anywhere else and not having all that mind clatter take us away. So we want to concentrate on the things that are coming through. Animals, I see maybe a hawk or something. Okay, cool. What do hawks mean? And then we start to think about it, right? I've heard of hawks before, and it was in this different TV show, and I remember seeing on BBC, and we start going in, and then we can, again, do the same processes that we did that just was like, don't need to be anywhere else. What do these guides or this realm have to teach me about the hawk? Not what I already know. What don't I know? What do I need to be open to? What needs to come through and be channeled to me about this animal, this book, this whatever I'm seeing? So trusting those images, once your eyelids are shut and feel tranquil, those images come in. You can expand on those images, but just take things one at a time. You don't have to, like I said, you won't be overwhelmed. It won't be a state of just overwhelm. It'll be a state of feeling loved, supported, with your guide there by your side, and trusting the things that come through and that they get to evolve. So again, if it's just a book with empty pages, don't concentrate on the fact that the pages are empty and think to yourself in a lack mindset of, I'm not seeing anything, this is blank, holy crap, I'm going to get out of here and not get anything. You need to calm all that down in the moment and just focus on the book. And then if nothing comes to you, just place your hands on it while you're in the dream time, and then be looking at your surroundings. Are you in a forest? Are you in a library? Are you in a cobblestone cottage? Are you in a garden? Where are you? What keys can you bring from your surroundings? What is your guide doing? Sometimes my guide will just start walking away, and I have to decide for myself, do I follow or do I let him go and be on my own? Right? And you'll get a feel for these type of things, and this is where you get to answer your own questions. Okay, so if the book is open and the page is blank, for example, that could mean it's time to ask your question. And then you get to consciously create a pen if you want to, or grab a pen, what have you. And then you get to start writing your questions. And it's like channeled writing in the dream time itself. So ask your questions to the book, or continue channeling writing in the book. Now it's important as well to have a journal in the physical next to you while you're accessing this channel. Simply because, while we're having these different access communications happening, it's easy to come back into the physical and forget, or to go right back into, dishes, homework, kids, do this, do that, time frames, things like that. So it's important once you do come back to your body, which we'll go over that too, I kind of skipped ahead, to have a journal so that you can write down your instances, come back the next day. I have a tarot card deck that suggests doing like one spread per week, and then reflect on it for at least 3 days. So you get the reading, or you get the images, the channel, you come back to it, you journal on it, then you have the 3 days to reflect back to it. Then you get the highlighter, or you get the different colors, what have you, and you circle things, or you expand on things. And it's for a purpose, to be expanding and going through the layers of, why is it a father figure, not a mother figure, for example? Or is there healing to be done in this area? what have you, and then you're able to not overanalyze or get into the left brain too much, but it's more just to reflect on what you've learned. And then, of course, we can go back into the records, but by that point, you may get new images, you may get new things, or you may have a new intention subconsciously. So we want to be really in charge with our subconscious as we go into this realm, because that's what's leading the conversation, and that's what our guides are understanding that we need more so than what we want. And that's another big key piece too, is like for the money, for example, I need money to pay my bills, and I need abundance to prove to my husband that I can do it, or what have you. When you go in with that mind space, they're going to show you something different, which, like I mentioned before, might be a, I'm hearing garden space. I'm not sure why. That's probably more for me. But like I said, with the father figure, or something that's more deep-seated, because it's something to move through. It's something to go back to that place and perform some sort of healing. Now, there is healing that can be done in the Akashic Records or the Akashic realm, because there's so much love there. It's almost like once you go through that door, there's nothing but bright lights, right? With the end of the tunnel is always a bright light. We're going and becoming that light. Like I mentioned at the very beginning, this is our one consciousness, right? So we're here to, I want to say analyze, but we're here to understand on a deeper level the things that we're here to do in the physical. But this is also our communication piece with our higher self, and the purpose for why we were given the events that we were given to work through the things that we've been given to work through. So yes, there's healing that can be done there, and it can be done with, we don't have to feel alone as we go through to do that in the Akashic realm. So there's a lot of information and a lot of different pieces of things that we can do once we're in those records. So the important piece then is to create a direct channel for what the energy we want to accomplish while we're there, and asking those proper questions as well. So just asking a question that says, which way should I go? That doesn't make a whole lot of sense to spirit, and they don't know how to translate that. So we'll go over that as well in the certification course, because there's a whole section on this. So I like to have a couple options, and I do this with my clients as well. Don't just tell me to tell you what to do. I need to have 3 or 4 things that I can get a feel for. And that's what I would have you do as well in the Akashic Records, is say, okay, I could go be a teacher. What does that feel like to go to a classroom every day? What does it feel like to be around children? What does it feel like in the faculty room? What am I eating for lunch? All of that. Get into the energy of it. Live it for a minute in the dream time. What does that feel like? Then you'll just get a sense for yes or no. And I went over this as well in my group a little while ago, of no answers might feel confined, dark, stop signs maybe, or a brick wall maybe. And so you'll get this image rather than just a no, right? The different clairs, claircognizant, clairaudient, etc. So you might have images of stop signs and different things like that, where a yes answer might look like bright sunny skies, or like a garden, or the door opening, or walls breaking down, or different sunshiny sweet flowers, something like this that makes you feel expansive rather than confined. Those are your yes or no indications. Okay, so the imagery makes a lot of sense. And then once you start reading for clients, if that's something you choose to do too, it's very important to tell them what those things are. So I'm seeing sunshiny flowers with rose bushes, a huge garden area. I think this is a yes answer. What do you think? That will make a lot of sense to them. Then, of course, they can say, oh my goodness, I see my mother's cottage that she grew up in. This is so important. My grandmother is here. We were baking cookies this day. That's important for them to experience in their Akashic realm. So it's very important to describe to them what you're seeing. Give them those answers in verbal form, but you're translating an image. You want them to be there on the image with you, if that makes sense. So those proper questions are a very important piece. I'm not sure how far in depth I can go into it with only 15 minutes left, just because having those separate different options are very important. And for me, at least, because I like to get behind the energy, get a feel for yes or no. And it does put a little bit more responsibility on your client if you're reading for someone else, in order to give you those options and give you those categories, if you will, of what kind of things do I have in as an example. So this brings me to the fact of answering your own questions or asking questions for yourself. So yes or no, stay or go, different things like that. You'll get a certain feeling for them, but it's a lot more difficult to do this for yourself because it's almost like flipping a coin in the air and then having that hope that it lands on heads or tails, right? So that is an indication that you know which way to go. So if your heart is pulling and hoping and wishing and desiring for it to be a certain outcome, then trust that thing. And that's very important too. So this can happen as well if we're in the Akashic Records hoping for a different answer or hoping that we get told this certain thing. You'll go there and you might see blank pages, black space, nothing. Now, there's a reason if and when this does happen. Of course, we want to concentrate on creating mind space is what I like to call it, but just creating space between your eyebrows where that third eye would be so that we're feeling expansive, we're feeling tranquil, and we're in that serene state of mind. And then we're just being open. And we're just saying, I'm creating space. I'm open and ready to receive. I'm here to gain knowledge. I'm here to gain perspective and clarity. We're saying those things instead of, please be yes, please be yes, please be yes. Because in that indication, that's your conscious coming in and tapping on the glass, if you will. So be very cautious of that. Now, how to make those differentiations is practice. Practice makes perfect as far as how far do I go with my hopes, dreams, and intentions when I'm here gaining clarity from the other realms, right? So there's almost a little bit of a disconnect or a difficulty in the translation if we get too far in the way, right? So we want to just be open and ready to receive, open to the clarity, open to our channel, and open to our guides taking us with them. That's one of the biggest pieces. I was going a different direction with that, though. I was trying to think. Okay, so if you do see something that's black space and you are open and ready and you keep opening up that third eye and you just keep getting black space, stay in the space, obviously, wait for anything to come through. If nothing comes through, you feel totally alone in the dark, you don't know which way it's trying to tell you, you don't even feel your guide there with you, this is an indication that this is a free will decision. Okay, this is very important because a lot of people feel if I don't see my guide, they're not showing me which way to go, I am totally in the dark right now, this is lonely, I don't want to feel this way. You shouldn't feel that way in the records at all. But if ever you do, know that this is a conscious decision that your subconscious doesn't actually need to be a part of, if that makes sense. So yes, we have experiences that shape the way that we think, but we also have our guides that are here to give us our highest good and give us insight. But when that insight is absent, when our subconscious is absent, it's just an indication that your free will is in play here. You get to decide which way to go. This is your pivot point. We're not going to, excuse me, come in and tell you which way. We're not going to come in and try to steer you because it is up to you. And this is a monumental time for, like, just an example, go back to work or take on my spiritual business. Both of those could lead to abundance in the form of money. Both of them have a feel to it. And your job, your purpose is to be analyzing, I keep using that word, but I don't want you to get too left brain about it, but to see and feel what each of those options feel like, get behind each option, and then make a conscious decision that is you putting forth the energy in one direction or another, and then really taking that decisive action and saying, okay, this is what it is I want to do. Once that decision is made, you'd be amazed to see that when you re-enter the Akashic realm with that in place, that decision already made, then your guides can come in, then you'll receive more insight, the clarity will come clear. They just wanted you to get that decision out of the way, if that makes sense. So then, of course, we have coming back to the body. Now, there's several different ways to do that, too. I actually find that I always get disappointed when it's time to come back because I want to stay in there forever. And this is why a lot of people fall asleep or do meditations to fall asleep, because you can just go straight to that realm and stay there and allow yourself to sleep. And if you come back and don't remember anything, it gets to be okay, because you got to spend time in that tranquil place and you can go back there. And every time you go back, the translation gets stronger. You're grabbing information and bringing it back, it gets stronger. Practice makes perfect. So the more time, the better. So Sandra says, what about asking that your guidance use specific symbols that you recognize? Yes. So Oh, sorry, there was one from earlier. I was like, what is that? Okay, so yes, using symbols is extremely important, and it's something that will come from past lives, from angelic other realms, different things like this, and you should recognize what they are. So for example, in one of my past live meditations, I was able to see a notebook that opened up to have all sorts of symbols in it. And then after I came back, I wrote them down. I tried to kind of scribble them out as good as I could. And then afterwards, I kind of had to come back to it several times and realize, okay, these are runes, right? So it wasn't a whole nother language. It was symbols that replicated runes. So then I went and invested in the runes and the workbook, etc. So you can ask for, yes, this guidance be something that I understand, but also trusting that when you go into this, they're not going to give you things that you don't understand. So if you do go in and see something that's totally out of the ordinary, so for example, that booklet that I did see, for me just looked like a bunch of gibberish. Once I just kind of tried to scribble it down as good as I could to rectify it, replicate it, then I came back to it, and more understanding that I gave to it, the more concentration and the more energy that I put forward into understanding it, the better it became. So it can be a bit of a process. You may come out of the meditation to then research into hawks or medicine teachers of what you saw. So for example, I didn't know when I asked for my angel to come to me that it was Gabriel. I just realized that I couldn't tell if it was male or female. And I thought to myself, that doesn't make a lot of sense. There's like long flowing golden locks, but there's a masculine body. So then I researched it, and I did get a name from the meditation eventually that said Gabriel. So when I Googled it, Google is still your friend even in meditation, then it came up to say Gabriel likes to give mixed messages. He likes to come up to sometimes being a female body, sometimes male. You can't always differentiate the two. He likes to utilize that kind of brain confusion to his advantage to then translate messages. So then that was a second indicator that yes, who I saw was Gabriel. So again, there's going to be clarification, and you can ask for clarification on anything while you are in the records. So while you're there and your guide shows you a specific flower or a specific animal, you can ask them, what does this mean? But not always will you get an answer, and that needs to be okay. So then you can just sit with the image that you're seeing, legitimately in your mind, sit down while you're in that dream time and just say, okay, if all I need to do is be in this energy, that's what I need to do. And then just concentrate on absorbing those things around you and consciously take memory and take note of what you're seeing. Go walk around a little bit, see what the edges are, if you will, of how far you can go. Where's my vantage point? How far can I see? Are there trees around me? Can I climb those trees? Can I go see from other points of view? Utilize your guide, but don't rely completely on your guide. Like I said, sometimes mine will walk away. Now, I could feel some type of way about that, abandonment or different things like that, but maybe there are abandonment issues that need to be discovered, right? Childhood, different things like that. See, the synchronicities are coming. So the goal here is to enter the space so many times, the synchronicities start happening. So if you leave the Akashic Records and you're totally confused, which can happen, my first couple times I was totally not getting it. But I was in a course, so it was okay, working with a group, etc. So I then just kept re-entering and just write down everything I had. And even to this day, I'll open up my journals and not recognize the things that I wrote down, because we're in such an unconscious state, coming back to that, jotting it down, leaving it for a while, come back the next morning, revisit it, say, okay, I do remember this, I remember seeing that, add to it, add more expansion, add more clarity as you go. Maybe channel some writing at the bottom. Okay, that's it, table it, leave it. Come back the next day, do the same thing. We're just uncovering layers. So just know that there's always more to learn. There's always more clarity to gain before we change topics or before we change gears to learn something new in the records. So this does bring me to the Akashic Records certification course, because each of these points is an entire week that we get to concentrate on the specifics of asking questions, of meeting your guide. So again, if you go into the record and your guide is not there, then we have a support group, if you will, of people who say, okay, this is my experience, this is how powerful it was, but then maybe next time when they try to do a past life, they see nothing and you get all of this expansive information. So it's just a matter of gauging, but it's not a matter of comparing. It's just that support of, okay, this is what I saw. I want to make heads or tails of it. What does this mean? We can then add clarity, add insight, have you go and sit with that a little bit, come back to us, tell us how that all came full circle. Because essentially it's one of those weird synchronicities of angel numbers and then of course time frames and different things that all come together and come full circle at the end. So it's kind of this mysterious other realm that happens. So that you all know, this is all coming very soon. I'm going to start the Akashic Records course on the 20th of this month. We're going to do early bird for that first week. So for the next week up until the 10th of this month, which gives you 7 days from today, is going to be $320, and then it's going to go up to $470. So $480 was going to be the umbrella term for how much to charge here. $470 is what I have landed on. $320 is how you can get into it. Early bird pricing, you get $150 off by coming into it early bird season. So that is essentially where we're at. It's going to be 6 weeks. So each of these topics get its own week. You have an entire week to perfect your spirit guide, an entire week to perfect your intentions, an entire week to perfect your access method. And we also go over, there might be one specific essential oil. There might be one specific stone. This one ended up being mine. And let me see what you guys think of this. So my first Akashic Records journey, I wanted to meet my spirit guide. Ended up being a dragon. I talk about this quite a bit. I tried to meditate in the bathtub. I had back pain going on. It was hurting me. I couldn't travel. And my dragon started to scream at me in my face. And the only thing that I started to grasp from that was I kept getting an image of the stone that was the same color as he is. And it was this stone right here. And you tell me if you see a dragon face. You see the little nose? So this is like his chin. This goes up to the nose. And this would be like his ear. And this is my dragon, and that's my stone that he led me to. So then, of course, the next time I went in, I took my stone with me. This is a stone that I already had. It wasn't like, go to the store, buy a new thing. It's more likely that you already have the stuff here at your disposal, and it's just like, bring a few things, you get a feel for your energy. Like I said, enchant your space a little bit, create your sacred space with things you already have that meditation, go with the guide of what we're doing, then come back, journal about it, and then say, oh my gosh, this is the stone, I already have it, and then look at it and say, holy crap, there's a dragon in the stone. So it was very cute. And now when I see him, he is super happy to see me. He likes me to jump on his back, and that's my access method, is actually just jumping on his back and he takes me. So we go up almost like through an elevator shaft straight up. And that's what he wanted me to do the first time, and I couldn't get behind it because my back was hurting me. So again, it's just every single time I entered, it got better and better. He transforms. He started as a Chinese dragon, that looked like, had the wispies and everything. It was like an abundance dragon. And then he kind of evolved into more of a Game of Thrones dragon that had the bigger wings, longer neck. And he evolves with me, and he can become little pocket sized. So I can take him with me. It's the cutest freaking thing. And he gets to be like golden retriever size and jump when I come into the space. And so if I feel alone or I'm feeling like I need clarity on something, I can get the image of my little puppy dog dragon that yells in my face or takes me flying, whatever, and have him there with me. So yes, I want a dragon. I did not think it was going to be a dragon. I talk about this a lot. I was actually going through a lot of crap with somebody who was like overly obsessive with Game of Thrones and had like over obsessive with dragons. And I started hating dragons and the thought of dragons. She would wear like the Mother of Dragons shirt, and I just like couldn't handle it. Long story. But anyway, I was associating dragons with negativity for a very long time. So to have a dragon be my spirit guide in the Akashic realm totally flabbergasted me. So again, you just kind of have to trust what comes through. I did not expect there to be a dragon. He just was, who came to me, I was expecting more of like a mystical unicorn fairy, something like that. Garden fairy, maybe. Have yet to see garden fairies, but mermaids, unicorns, all of those things exist there. So he's taken me to those realms, and I'm assuming when we go straight up like this, we're going through dimensions and we're going to different levels, and we could stop at any of those levels, but he decides for me where we're meant to go, what we're meant to see, etc. So then there's the spirit guides, that's a whole unit. Then how to take that information and transform it into the spirit, from the spirit realm to the physical, to then see how it applies. Because one of them also was which past life, because I've had so many past lives apparently. So I was like, I want to see a past life. Okay, didn't really see much, little glimpses here and there, very sporadic energy, stuff everywhere. Do it again. Which past life do I need to gain clarity on to be the highest good of what I'm going through right now? Whoa. Then I saw from childhood to adulthood, the entire lifespan of a past life, start to finish, like in one go ahead. So it was just like watching a movie on fast forward, but then I was able to grasp all of it. It was one past life, one human being. There's a name, there was a town, there was a year, and that's the things we're going to be asking your Akashic Records in the certification course is, not only do I want to see my past life, but where was I on a map? So in your actual spiritual experience, we're imagining a map of the world, maybe even spinning the globe, watch the globe spin, stick your finger on there, that's where you're from. Right, so different ways to answer very specific questions. For me, it was more just, what year is it right now? And you can turn around and look at your surroundings and ask the spirit realm, what year is it? You might get images, you might get a map, you might get clothing ideas. And this is another big one with the past life thing, was I had a name, I knew I was in Sweden, I knew it was 1300 AD, and I was seeing images. And so I was on the run. I was a green witch, by the way. It was so fun. So I lived on a hillside, and I would make tinctures and take herbs and make them into stuff and then go sell them on like a farmer's market. And then the farmer's market got swiped away, and there was like crusaders coming, and I had to be on the run, and I thought I was going to get hung or burned because I was a witch and I was transforming energy, and people didn't like that. So I was hiding, and I lived out my whole life, which was cool. And I had a whole little hut, like apothecary on the hills, and I did everything on foot. So this crazy little hiding energy, right? So what makes sense now is I have a business doing witchy stuff, moving energy, but do I want to be completely public with it, right? So why is this my highest good? How can I gain from this? And I was able to have conversations with her, the Green Witch, in her older years, with my dragon there with me. The dragon was with her as much as he was with me, and we had a whole experience. So much fun. And like I've mentioned before, I had a lot of intuitive gifts before I took my Akashic Records course. I would give that like a 4 in comparison to now being a 10, of having, like I said, little glimpses of my past life coming and going, to then having a highlight reel of the whole thing and seeing just one, not many at one time. So there's more of a direct channel of the energy. It's more asking permission and gaining the clarity one thing at a time. It's very segmented on purpose so that by the end of it, we come full circle. So there's a whole strategic piece to it of why we unleash things in the order that we do. Again, it's early bird right now for the next 7 days. 320 will get you the 6 weeks one-on-one with me in a group program where you will practice and you'll have homework to offer sessions with the other people in the group or with people in your group, etc., to prove, if you will, your ability to read, more so for yourself than for me. But you will fill out a little notebook, take pictures of the notebook to send to me so that I can see, okay, they're seeing this thing, they're gaining the clarity, they're meeting their guide. If you're not able to, then we have the option for Q&As, different things like that, to where we can be one-on-one. So this would be above and beyond whatever one-on-one sessions or coaching that we do, but we can incorporate them both, if that makes sense. So if that calls to you, definitely let me know in the group, in the event, what have you. I'd love to hear what you guys are experiencing. Go ahead and try a few things. try to access with your own method. Every meditation video is going to have something different. You get to decide which one works the best for you. There are 3 different meditations in the group right now in the video section. When I did how to meditate and actually see stuff, that was another event that we did. All of those have a separate meditation that I guided. So activating the chakras, obviously just creating alignment, right? Becoming a cleanse in order to get that third eye to open. If you still and always feel like you're trying to see things in the dream time, but it's getting fragmented or it's having an issue with a direct channel, that's a time to say, okay, I need to align. I need to figure out where in my chakras I am blocked so that when I get to that third eye, it's not a problem for me, because that's going to be a definite indicator that there's some work or healing to be done. Does that mean you'll never be able to access the Akashic Records? Absolutely not. You can be in the Akashic Records without being completely healed. It's okay. So having that and things to say like that every single week as we dig deeper into different layers is going to be extremely helpful, so you don't get into your own head saying, I have to do the dishes and clean the house and sweep the floors and do the things before I can access the records. That's not the case. You can do so, you know, in 20 minutes if you're sitting in a parking lot in your car, or things are taking too long at home, something's happened that you're delayed and you have 20 minutes. I want you to be left with the ability to access and go enjoy that tranquil state in a blink of an eye. So that would be my goal for those who take the course. And then of course you get a certification course, and you can then teach that to your own clients and leave them with the same feeling and leave them with the ability to then teach others. So we're just magnifying the ability to access the Akashic realm, other realms, spirit realm, what have you. Meet their guides, see what they need to see, answer questions, be their own mystic, and then in turn, of course, healing more people, allowing more people to then build their own dreams and have their purpose laid out in front of them clearly, and have their next step to how to reach those things more clearly as well, so that everybody can, you know, make more magic happen. So I will leave you all with that. I'll go ahead and stop the recording so that we can ask any more questions.